Today we will be talking about a topic that is coming up really often, and it's the question which DAW should you use, which one is the best one, which one is the easiest one, where to start, how to get into them. DAW is short for Digital Audio Workstation and is basically a software used to create, record, edit, mix and produce audio. And I want to share my experience that I made with picking a DAW and transitioning from one DAW to another DAW, explaining why I did what I did, why I switched recently, which I'm using now, which one I started with. And I hope that I can give you some insights in my process to help you pick the right DAW for you and get started. So when it comes down to DAWs, there is so many choices on the market. You have Ableton, you have Cubase, you have Studio One, you have Logic, you have Reaper, you have so many choices. And the obvious question is, which one is the best one? Which one is the easiest one? Which one should you pick? And why should you pick a specific DAW? So if you are a total beginner in music production and came here just wondering which DAW should you pick because you have seen there are so many choices and you got confused and really just want a quick answer on this question, I can give you a really quick answer right here. Pick any DAW that looks interesting for you. If you see something, tutorials, and you think this program looks interesting and fun to learn, pick this one. Do not look any further, just start with one DAW. All DAWs share pretty much the same core features and you will be fine starting out in music production with pretty much all DAWs on the market. At this time they are pretty much well developed and it comes down to personal preference and some unique features that are not relevant for starting out in music production. Then the next question would be, what about pricing? Like you have different versions for each DAW and then all the different DAWs cost differently, and how relevant is the pricing for me? And I can also give you a really specific recommendation when it comes to pricing. What I would recommend doing is trying out the demo versions first. Then a lot of DAWs will come with different versions. So if you find a DAW that you spend a trial period just learning it, using the time to spend on tutorials, working on some first music production, and just feel like, oh, it's pretty good. And then my recommendation would be, usually DAWs come with different tiers you can purchase, and usually for starting out the first tier is enough. You will have of course not so many effects included, not so many MIDI effects and all that stuff, and you're maybe limited to a certain amount of tracks you can work with. But the thing is, if you're starting out, you will not use all of the audio effects and MIDI effects anyway. You will start somewhere and start with the basics, and the basics will be included in the intro tier anyway. So just start with the intro tier. Do not invest too much money. Software you are just really freshly introduced to and using to, just see if music production fits you in general. And then if you after a few months just realize you are getting to the boundaries of the edition you bought, then consider upgrading. But I would not recommend upgrading right away. Beside there is a really generous offer which I would be careful in, because it could be that after a few months you just realize, oh, Cubase looks even better and I am getting to some kind of limitations or workflow things that I don't like, and then you can basically switch DAW and then you just have invested money for the intro version and not for the full big version, and then you can use this money to get the intro version of Cubase, for example, and work with this, and this will give you a much bigger overview over which program is really the best for you. So something I can really recommend doing is, for the whole decision of which DAW to use, see a DAW as a tool. It's a tool, nothing more. There is no software loyalty, worshipping, this is the best, this is the best. They are all tools. If there would be a best DAW, there only would be one, because everybody would use the one. But since everybody is using different DAWs, there is no perfect DAW. They are just preferences and specific needs for specific people, and they choose the tools for their specific needs and their specific workflow. And this is something I can really recommend to you. Pick any tool at first, start working with a tool, see what you like about the tool, see what you do not like about the tool, and if there are enough things that turn you down, then switch the tool. But do not just switch the tool because you want to switch the tool, because the best tool is always the tool you know. You will always be the fastest and most efficient working with a tool you know. So stick with a DAW as long as it serves you, as it works, but consider switching if you just feel it's holding you back and there is a better tool for your workflow or for your work. So then, if you are a seasoned music producer and you already worked with maybe one DAW and then you just realize the tool is somehow holding you back, there are things you do not like about a DAW, and you came to this video and just see clarity about which DAW should you pick, my advice would be just think about what do you like about the DAW you are actually using currently and what do you not like. And if the downsides are big enough, which they probably are, otherwise you would not consider switching, just look for a tool that basically checks all the boxes your currently DAW does not check. There's also no need to search for the perfect DAW and spend hours, days, weeks and months just searching for DAWs and reading through reviews and like hearing all of the opinions of other people, because these are their experiences. You have to look at your experience, and if there is something that is missing on the DAW you're currently using, then try another tool. Also, my recommendation there would be use the free trial period. Just use these DAWs and see if they check the checkboxes that are missing from the DAW you're currently using. And if yes, then use it as a complementary tool. There is no need for the new DAW to replace the old one completely. You can work with different tools at the same time. You can use one tool for mixing, one tool for composing. You can export stems, import the stems to another DAW and work with this one if it's really such a big benefit to you. So I really want to recommend changing this kind of mindset of there has to be the perfect DAW for you, because most likely there will not be the perfect DAW for you. There will be one good for a certain thing, one good for another thing, and in some cases there could be the scenario where you just feel like there's a need to use two, or you just like have to deal with the downsides of one DAW, and then just like the upsides of only using one are still bigger than just using two, for example, which is the case for me, for example. Yeah, so now I just want to share a little bit of my experience picking DAWs, trying out DAWs, and which one I used first and why I switched to another DAW recently. And by sharing my experience, I simply want to enforce my argument that there is no wrong DAW to start music production in. And this will be pretty clear when I share my experience, because I'm actually coming from an orchestral, symphonic, metal band type of background, and the first DAW that I found interesting was Ableton Live. And actually, I would never, ever, like from my today's perspective, recommend my former self to start working with Ableton if you are like doing like metal band projects and working on like drums and all of the orchestral elements. Like I'm talking like back then on the piano roll, there was no possibility to actually like see different MIDI tracks in one cohesive view. So if you have, for example, different voices of different instruments, you had to copy in the different voices into one MIDI clip to like actually be able to see all the voices at one time. Otherwise you will have to like recognize which voices was playing what and then switching between MIDI clips. It was a real pain in the ass, but actually I somehow worked through it and just sticked with Ableton for a real long while. And I was pretty happy because actually Ableton had a lot of upsides. For example, the really flexible workflow. You could basically just go on a track. You could like copy paste like VST elements and effects. It was pretty much a drag and drop behavior, really modern feel, and like it was just also really easy to learn because there was no real routing you have to learn. So this was a pretty good, like there were a lot of upsides actually learning and starting with Ableton Live. I cannot say that I would regret like using Ableton as my first DAW. But there came a point recently where I just felt like there are some really essential tools missing, and I was not able to get this functionality out of Ableton. For example, for some of the video games I was working on, I had to export a lot of like audio files, which were in one project, like hundreds of them. And I started with Ableton, and then you had to set all the export frames and then like the regions and export all of them and renaming all of them. And then there was like one point where I was like, there has to be a other DAW that just like takes care of all that, and that I can like rename it once and then batch export everything. And then I've basically started working with Cubase, and I like Cubase like a lot. Like a lot of things are more complicated in Cubase, like all the routing stuff and stuff like this. But like you can learn that and you can get used to this, and then at the end it's just a matter of which DAW serves your requirements best. And for me, this pretty much was because I was working with more clients, with more different kind of track versions, and I was exporting a lot of different versions. It just made more sense for me to use Cubase for all the marker functionalities, and I also like Cubase a lot. And I really feel like the workflow in Cubase is a little bit more targeted to people working with acoustic instruments and recordings. And Ableton, I would say, is a lot more catered towards people doing electronic music, but like there's no rule or there's no downside actually for using Ableton with acoustic recordings and elements. Like this kind of workflow can be really inspiring, and I oftentimes just switch back to Ableton, use Ableton for a track because things are just much faster. For example, opening Ableton up, you just can start working on a project. On Cubase, you have to set a project folder first, and sometimes I just want to try out some really quick things, do not want to set up a project folder if I know I want to scrap it right away again. And yeah, it's just like a lot of things that are faster in Ableton, so I use Ableton for that. And for some things, like all the big projects, I usually now use Cubase. So I basically found two tools that complement each other, and I would just want to encourage you to think about this in the same way about tools and not about this kind of loyalty towards one software and just like think about one has to serve all your purpose and all your needs. You can use different software, different DAWs for different tasks, and this is where you will get the best out of all of the worlds. So this was the reason I really wanted to make this quick video just talking about the DAW choice, because I think this is something a lot of people just think about a lot. Like if I'm like investing my time into the wrong DAW, should I spend my time more wisely learning another DAW? And basically, to sum it up, if you're a beginner, just pick any of them that just looks like you would enjoy the workflow. Start with the free trial, working with it. If you like it, get the lowest price intro tier, work with it until you get to the boundaries of this, then decide if you want to upgrade. If you feel like there is some really big downsides and you find another DAW that seems like it would fix those issues, try this one out. Try the free trial and upgrade also on there, and do not make a full commitment and spend a lot of money in a tool you're not sure you actually would use. And if you're like already a seasoned music producer already using a DAW for pretty much a long time, like if there, just ask yourself the question, are there things that you cannot do with a DAW that you're currently using? And like just ask yourself, how much time would you save using another DAW? How much time would you need to learn it? Is it worth basically like learning a new DAW? If you really come to the conclusion it's something you use really regularly, for example, like for me, exporting a lot of tracks and different track versions, like in the long term it was like perfect learning the other DAW and just using this. But if you think, if there's just like this kind of maybe the another one is a little bit better because a lot of people just say it and the opinion of other people does not really matter, like it's just like ask yourself what is missing for you, what do you think will be improved using another DAW. Try it out for yourself, see if it's an improvement for your workflow, and if then decide to maybe switch to another DAW. So I really want to encourage to look at DAWs as tools, and the best tool is always the tool you know. You will always be the fastest with the tool you know. If you have a tool you know and it works perfectly, do not think and consider about like switching DAW just for fun. Just like if you have the time and want to do it on the side and just for fun, like I do not want to hold you back, but I can really recommend taking a look at DAWs as tools, and there is no perfect tool, otherwise there would only be one. And since there are so many for different preferences and workflows, and if the tool that you're currently using works for your workflow, stick with it. If not, consider switching. So I really hope that this video helped you a little bit about this urgent question that you might have about which one to start with, which DAW should I pick, and if you're already using one, should I switch to another DAW? Is this one maybe better than the one I'm currently using on? I really hope that this gave you some clarity on this. So let me know in the comments what DAW are you currently using and why are you using it? And do you think about switching to another DAW, and why are you considered to switch? So I'm really looking forward to read your comments and have a discussion on that. And now do not waste more time on this thought and get back to writing awesome music. See you on the next one.